All right, we're going to continue this morning's availabilities. We're joined now with our NASCAR Xfinity Series playoff driver availability. We're joined by Justin Allgaier, driver of the number 7 Brandt Professional Agricultural Chevrolet for JD Motorsports, or JR Motorsports. Get to JD in a second. We'll get to Ross Chastain, number 4, Delaware Office of Highway Safety, Use Your Own Melon Chevrolet for JD Motorsports, and then Austin Cindric, driver of the number 22 Discount Tire 4 for Team Penske. We'll open up the floor to questions. Raise your hand. We'll bring a mic to you. Start right here in the front with Chris Knight.
Yeah, Chris Knight, catchfence.com. For all three of you guys, you are all in different positions tomorrow. How do you guys feel like the race is going to play out? Is it going to be a calm race or a hectic race?
I watched the Cup race last week. Obviously, it was hectic coming down to the end. I can only imagine that ours is going to be the same way. You know, obviously these playoffs have been fun. They've been interesting, and they've been eventful. And so I think that, you know, coming into here, this place is kind of known for anything can and will happen. You know, it's the monster for a reason. And so I think that it's going to be a challenging day for sure. But I think at the end of the day, of all the places we could have gone, I think this is a great place to end this schedule, and so I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, same way. We think we'll do the right stuff and make the right decisions, but you see these playoff races and the cutoff ones for sure. They get crazy. So I can only do my job. These two guys can only do their job, and we'll see how it all plays out.
I think of all the places we go to, when you hear cautions breed cautions, this is probably one of the biggest places that's true because of how the track changed for restarts and how the rubber picks up and how it changes everyone's balance. So I think we saw that in the spring, and I'm sure we'll probably see it again here.
Front stretch. Guys, this is for all of you. Dover ends a stretch of 15 consecutive races in the Xfinity Series. How grueling is that on you guys and the teams?
It's tough, and then obviously we're all pushing really hard to run good here, so it's not like you're just cruising along with. For us, like we could have just brought the same race car we always bring to places like this, but you know we bring the best we can, and for my guys, it was a lot of just trying to bring the best piece that we've ever brought. So I don't know, it could be the best, could be the worst thing, but I know they're glad for the break no matter what. They're glad for a couple of days just away from the racetrack on the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, the hard part is the schedule is extremely challenging. I mean, in all sports, I mean, the schedule is extremely challenging. I think we get the benefit sometimes as being the driver to not necessarily have to be in the shop every day, working as hard as some of the guys on these race teams work. Now, granted, we all have things we have to do on top of just driving the race car, but the guys in the shop, the effort, the time that they put in, especially like Ross said, trying to bring your best car to the racetrack. That may be turning a car around in a short amount of time. That may be trying to run that car multiple races. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Is when you've kind of hit this point, your mind and body are telling you, hey, just shut down and quit. And then you especially being in the playoffs, the pressure and the stress, and you're feeling that, but also too you're trying to push yourself through all of that and to put yourself in a good place when you get to the racetrack to have that positivity going into the race weekend. So it's on the guys as much as it is on anybody, and our team has done a great job of that. Our shop has taken a lot of the burden of that. The guys that stay back at home, our guys that travel on the road, they're the same guys that work on our car each and every week. They're the ones that put the cars together. So we've had some of the guys in the shop that normally wouldn't do that have other jobs that are trying to help out. So it takes a team effort for sure, and I know that it's stressful on the guys, but they're going to enjoy this off weekend.
We'll go right here, and then we'll come over to Lee.
Tim Kettleham with WRC Sports. Question for each three of you drivers. Do you feel with where you are in the points right now with the elimination race tomorrow afternoon, is it a must-win situation? I guess that's an obvious question, but is it a must-win situation for each of you guys, and do you think each of you can win?
I mean, sitting below the cut line, I still don't think of it as a must-win. I mean, we saw how crazy the Cup race was at the Roval. Obviously, that was kind of expected with that racetrack, but even with the way each round is kind of jumbled, the points. I feel like 9 points isn't the most daunting task. I've still got to have a perfect race, still got to get really good stage points, still got to be able to finish and put myself in a position at the end of the race. Do I think we can win this weekend? Yeah, I think we can. I think this is one of my stronger tracks. I've been here a few times. Obviously, I think we've got a really good notebook to go off of, but at the same token, it's still open for anybody. I think Justin's going to be really hard to beat this weekend. Obviously, won the race in the spring, so I'm excited for this weekend. I always love coming here. It's one of my favorite tracks, but everyone's got to be able to execute everything perfect, and I feel like that's something I've tried really hard to accomplish in a race weekend, and I don't see a better weekend to do that than here.
I'm a little different. I don't think I have to be perfect. I think I have to not be the worst. There's 7 of us, and really we're all close enough. If you fall out of the race, you'll probably miss it. Out of us 7, maybe 6. I don't know the point. But anyway, especially for us 3, like one of us falls out of the race at any point, you're probably not going to advance. So I don't have to be the best. I just need somebody to be worse than me. So that's obviously we want to run as good as we can, and this is a big weekend for us. With our Use Your Melon campaign and stuff, I've been up here since Monday and been all over to children's hospitals and schools and grocery stores, and it kind of puts it all in perspective that we all live in our NASCAR bubble, but like there's a lot bigger world out there, and seeing those, like a lot of the kids I get to see, and I really enjoy that. But like the hardest thing I do all year is go up to the AI DuPont, the Moores Hospital up in Wilmington, and it's I can't even put into words what it's like to walk in there and see a girl that was waiting on me, and she was there in the spring when we were there, and she hasn't went home yet. Luckily, she's still with us, and she was excited, and she was waiting, and we hung out for 2 hours while I was there, and sneaking kids outside to see the car, like the alarms are going off because they're not supposed to be going outside, but like they want to go, and the nurses say it's okay, and so I don't know. It's back to the racing though, to be business at hand. It's just, for me, it's not be the worst.
I think ours is kind of, both these guys have said valid points. I think in one aspect, I think we were good here in the spring, and execution is going to be super important. Just going out there and doing what we've done all year long. There's a reason why the 3 of us are in the playoffs, and along with everybody else that's been inside, is that we've done a good job all season long. And push through those races where maybe you weren't having a great day, but you pushed through and got the finish that you needed, and was able to make it into the playoffs. So we've all kind of been accustomed to this point. It's just now it's a little bit different because you don't want to fall out of that cut line. For us, I think we have 11 points to the good. I've told everybody, and I said it before we started the playoffs, these races can go any which way they are going to go. And you could have, I feel like in some of these places you could have 100 points to the good and somehow manage to figure out how to get rid of it, or then otherwise be way behind and not be able to make it in. So, or be able to make it in. So, for us, it's just about execution, knowing that we've got a good enough car and a good enough team to do our job, and hope that things work out the way that they're supposed to for us, and we make it to the next round.
Go right here to Lee.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Justin, how much confidence do you bring in here, though, having led more than half the laps in the race in the spring and going on to win it?
Well, the spring race was obviously a great race for us, albeit a little bit different conditions weather-wise. But, Dover's been one of those places that I feel really comfortable at. The very first time I came here, it was one of those places that I just felt good at. It's just a fun racetrack. That being said, I've also had major catastrophes here and had big crashes. I blew a right front getting into turn 3 one year. I don't know that I've ever hit that hard anywhere. So, I kind of, for all of the good that I remember, I remember a lot of the bad here too. So, I will say though, a couple weeks ago we were talking about the playoffs and the 3 races in the playoffs, and the season, going back to the season being so long, somebody said, you got to be excited to go back to Dover. I was like, oh yeah, we ran well in the spring. I don't remember where we finished, but we ran really good there. And they're like, no, you won. And it was like, oh, we did win. Okay, but you put these races out of your mind to go to the next one, because the next one is the most important. It doesn't matter, for us right now. It doesn't matter what happened at Charlotte, or it doesn't matter what happened at at where do we start the playoffs? Richmond. It's all about Dover this weekend and how to come out of here as best you possibly can and to run good. So we'll go back to our notes and I know how this place goes. It's usually a lot different in the fall than it is in the spring, and we just have to do our job.
And Ross, do you kind of feel fueled by the kids that you went and visited the other day? I mean, like, you have your own little army behind you when you come here because they'll be tuned into watching you.
Yeah, no, it is, and I got to finally answer the question. So we always get the bathroom question. I don't know if y'all do, but at all my appearances, people ask about going to the bathroom in the car, and then the kids will ask, well, how many times have you won? And I've always like, well, never. And they're like, what? And so now I can answer that a little different. So that was cool, and some of them knew it. Some of them knew that we had won, or somebody had told them, and so. That was cool. Like I said, a big week for us, and it's a lot bigger world out there than a little NASCAR bubble, which we're all very fortunate and blessed to be in. But it's cool to see their faces light up, when I get to talk to them.
And Austin, given your background on road courses, did you give Briscoe too much information going into last weekend's race?
I don't think so. I mean, Chase and I have been teammates for a while, and he's been really helpful for me in some places, and I've been helpful for him in some places, I'm sure. So it was really cool to see that happen. It's funny, the two races he's won this year, which were probably the two biggest wild cards in NASCAR, he's texted me after practice back and forth about how terrible he was in practice. At Eldora, he's like, we're terrible, I'm going to run like junk. And he goes and wins the race the next day. Same thing at the Roval. So it's funny that we have that kind of relationship, and it was really cool to. Obviously, I wish I would have been able to win the race, but I wouldn't have had anyone better to win the race, and for him to do that on a road course, I think that'll definitely boost his confidence because we're co-driving together at Road Atlanta next weekend. So I need him to be as good as he can.
Any additional questions? We have Dustin in the back.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Justin and Austin, you may be able to answer this as well. People will start looking at different ideas, different things or changes to make to the Roval after last week. And I just wonder, there was a lot of talk about that pit exit, and I know that's kind of where you guys had your issue. Is there anything that can be done with that looking forward for the future, or are there other areas of that track that need a little bit more work for next year?
I think from my standpoint, the pit exit situation was just circumstances for our deal. I don't know that had there not been a lap car there, that it really would have made a difference. So I think that was just circumstances. I think the end of pit road where you turned out actually was probably the one for me that kind of got me, because that's really what put us behind the car. Because of the way that you turn out there, that's what put us behind the car that kind of put me in the position to get what happened happen. So for me, that would be the only thing. But then the back straightaway inner loop, for me, that was probably the hardest part of the racetrack. Not necessarily because it was challenging, and I don't like challenging. It was just really hard to navigate without either A, damaging your car or somebody else's. And we really didn't pass through there. And it didn't slow us down, I don't think, like they thought it was going to. We were still able to run through there considerably faster than what we were at a place like Watkins Glen that has the bus stop. So I felt like the infield section of the course was fantastic. Even turning onto the oval and getting off the oval, there was one bump that actually I think cost Jimmy the most, coming off of the oval onto the infield section, or onto the chicane on the front straightaway, which they were aware of it. I don't know that there's much they could do to fix it at that point. But realistically, I think they did a great job of coming up with something that was completely different. It was for sure a wild card. I don't think anybody saw the crash in turn one at the end of the Cup race coming. At least I did not in the capacity that it did. I figured somebody in fourth, fifth, sixth, would get brave and have an issue. But no, I think that if they could figure out how to slow us down in the inner loop, and maybe how we actually turn off a pit road, I think that they hit a home run on everything else.
I mean, I'd say just from a track reconfiguration standpoint, I think the only thing that place is lacking is a legitimate brake zone. And I think there's enough room on the front straightaway coming off a NASCAR 4 to make that happen, just to give a legitimate passing point. You know, you have enough time to get a run on somebody, because there's so many times where I got to run off of the bus stop on the back, and I could not do anything with it unless I bonsai'd on the inside of somebody through the chicane, destroyed my side skirts over the curbs, and, you know, risking my splitter and all that. So I feel like there's more of an opportunity there. But as far as pit lane goes, I feel like there's some real estate out there that can be used probably to extend a line or do something, because I had a few sketchy merges off of practice, and when you're on the racing line, you're not really using a lot of the track to the left. So there's probably something more that can be done there. But all in all, I think on-track product-wise, I mean, I was watching the Cup race as a fan on Sunday, and I don't think anyone could have been any more entertained in those last 15 laps at that place. So it was cool to see that become such a success, and obviously it's there to stay.
Well, all right, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Good luck in tomorrow's Bar Harbor 200 presented by Sea Watcher International.